Welcome Ukraine news today. When the Ukrainian army began rotating fresh units into eastern Ukraine in mid-December, the 46th Air Mobile Brigade drew the short straw. It rotated into the sector around Bakhmut, a town in eastern Ukraine's Donbass region, 30 miles north of Donetsk, the seat of the separatist Donetsk People's Republic. Bakhmut, a town with a pre-war population of 72,000, is the unlucky object of Russian obsession. The Wagner Group, the shadowy mercenary company financed by Yevgeny Prigozhin, who earlier in life was Russian President Vladimir Putin's favorite sausage vendor, last spring chose Bakhmut as its main target. For months, Wagner has hurled battalion after battalion of under-trained troops, ex-convicts, mostly, at Ukrainian defenses in Bakhmut. Their tactic is to send people to die. Alexander Porebysky, a sergeant in the 46th Air Mobile Brigade, told Ukrainian Pravda. The Ukrainians have killed thousands of Wagner fighters and stubbornly held on in Bakhmut. But in the settlement of Soledar, just north of Bakhmut, Wagner's human wave tactics apparently worked. The 46th Air Mobile Brigade's 2,000 troopers fought hard for Soledar. Videos that circulated online depict the brigade's wheeled armored vehicles pouring heavy machine gun fire into Russian positions. On Wednesday, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky paid special tribute to the 46th Air Mobile Brigade soldiers for their bravery and steadfastness in defending Soledar. The same day, the Ukrainian General Staff expressed optimism that Soledar would hold. The invaders are trying to take control of the city of Soledar and supply routes of Ukrainian units, and suffer heavy losses, the General Staff reported. The fighting continues. But the staff's next daily update didn't mention Soledar at all, an ominous sign. Soon photos were circulating online purporting to depict Wagner fighters in Soledar's iconic salt mines. It's always possible Ukrainian forces could counterattack and liberate Soledar. The situation can change in half a day, Porebysky stressed. In any event, the fall of Soledar doesn't necessarily mean Bakhmut is in imminent danger of falling, too. The capture of the center and most of Soledar by Wagner units is an undoubted tactical success, wrote Igor Girkin, a former Russian army officer who played a key role in Russia's 2014 annexation of Ukraine's Crimean Peninsula. However, the enemy's front was not broken through. The enemy is creating a new line of defense on the western outskirts, relying on salt mines, Girkin added. The battles for the city are not over yet. The western outskirts and suburbs will have to be stormed. The enemy command definitely controls the situation. Wagner has thrown an estimated 40,000 fighters at Bakhmut and Soledar. As many as 4,100 have died, according to The Guardian. Another 10,000 were wounded. No ground combat force can sustain offensive operations after losing a third of its strength. Whether and how quickly Wagner can recruit new fighters, likely from Russia's prison population, could shape what happens next. No one expects Wagner to give up on Bakhmut. Indeed, the mercenary firm might read its capture of Soledar as evidence its human wave tactics work and are worth the cost in blood, and it should push even harder. It still needs to be reached, Girkin wrote of Bakhmut. The 46th Air Mobile Brigade surely is planning accordingly. Russia is building up its forces in Ukraine, but Ukrainian forces are holding out in fierce fighting for the eastern town of Soledar, Deputy Defense Minister Hanna Maliar said on Thursday. She told a news briefing that the number of Russian military units in Ukraine had risen to 280 from 250 a week earlier as Moscow tried to gain the strategic initiative. Fighting is fierce in the Soledar direction, Maliar said. The Russians, are moving over their own corpses. Russia is driving its own people to the slaughter by the thousands, but we are holding on, she said. Another senior military official, Brigadier General Alexei Gromov, told the briefing that the military situation in Ukraine remained difficult, with the heaviest fighting on the Eastern Front. Russian forces were trying to cut through Ukrainian lines and surround Ukrainian troops, he said. Gromov also said the danger of an attack being launched from Belarus, a Russian ally to the north of Ukraine, would remain throughout this year. Today, I held a regular meeting of the staff. The meeting, which by its nature corresponded to the situation on the front line, in the most important directions. Of course, the top issue is Soledar, Bakhmut, the struggle for the Donetsk direction in general. We have analyzed in detail what decisions are needed, what reinforcements are needed, what steps should be taken by commanders in the coming days. We also discussed the situation with the supply of weapons and ammunition to the troops, relevant interaction with our partners. Today, I talked about the prospects of the coming weeks and months with the Speaker of the Latvian Saeima, who was on a visit to Kyiv. We discussed not only defense, but also political prospects. In particular, European and Euro-Atlantic integration of Ukraine. I heard confidence that the day will definitely come when the Ukrainian flag will be absolutely on par with all flags of the EU member states. Latvia will help us in this. By the way, Latvia is one of those countries whose support for Ukraine in terms of percentage of GDP is one of the largest over the past year. I think that this trend may continue this year. Today, I continued phone talks with the leaders of the partner states. Two more European countries whose voice is extremely important for Ukraine are Cyprus and Luxembourg. We are also expanding the geography of the diplomatic marathon. I spoke today with Mr. President of Kenya. All these negotiations are devoted to the security issues of both our state and our partners. I am grateful for the support of the Ukrainian peace formula and for the willingness to work together with us to put an end to Russian aggression as soon as possible. A very important initiative of Ukraine is the creation of food hubs in Africa. Our foreign policy should reach a new level with African partners. They have already felt that the security of different nations directly depends on Ukrainian food exports. And we want to consolidate this at the level of specific institutions, specific objects, hubs, that is, specific guarantees of food stability that will be constantly in effect and will be one of the new foundations of relations between Ukraine and the states of the African continent. Today we also opened a new direction in our state charity platform United 24. This direction is the reconstruction of Ukraine. It is the generation of funds for the restoration, in particular, of housing for Ukrainians in the territories affected by Russian strikes and occupation. As of this day, about $500 million hryvnias have already been raised through United 24 from people from more than 100 countries to restore housing. This is a tangible help to both local communities and the state.